What's going on, boxing heads? It's PYP Boxing, and with me, as always, is the RGV Zone, Mark Salinas. I'm David D, and we'll be recapping this weekend's fights on the Zone, as well as Naoya Inoue's surprising win over Yin Jun Kim in Japan. Let's jump right into it. Naoya Inoue, in a shocker, no, not really, he stopped Yin Jun Kim in the fourth round, handing Kim his second loss, the first by KO. So first things first, I hit on the over. I said this fight would go over 3.5 rounds, and it did, just barely. The outcome was not about if or how, but when. And after the fight, Inoue reiterated in his own words what we've all been hearing. He plans to fight in Las Vegas next, and then in Riyadh after that. For the Vegas fight, the top-ranked team has their eyes on David Alan Picasso. I have heard whispers that MJ could be the opponent for Inoue after Picasso in Riyadh. And to me, that makes sense because we know Turkey Al Sheikh likes to pay up for fights, but he doesn't pay for gimmies. He pays boxers well, but he also matches them up tough. What did you think of Inoue's victory over Kim, Mark? And do you think the rumors about MJ being the next opponent after Picasso have any weight?
Man, you have to watch Inoue, right? Just because of who he is. He's exciting to watch, just like his buddy over in the LA Dodgers, Otani, right? Every time he goes up to bat, you have to see it because he might hit a home run. And Inoue does it again, man. We had to see it, and he hit a home run for us. I mean, it was awesome. It was a straight right. But yeah, we knew it was going to happen, but it's fun to watch. He's amazing. I mean, he's right up there with all the legends. Who knows who's next, David? MJ, Picasso, you know, I guess everybody's going to get their turn to Inoue, right? Because you said a couple of shows ago that he plans to stay there for a really long time. So I guess in any order, right? Who cares in what order? He's going to take care of these guys pretty easy. I like the Picasso fight. I like it in Vegas. It's going to make a lot of money. It makes sense. Picasso has a following. And me and you were talking a little bit before. They're pushing Picasso big time. And maybe you're right. Maybe they do. If he's going to lose, it might as well be with an Inoue. That way his record isn't tainted that bad. And also, hey, they're going to cash him out, right? Sanford's smart. They got a good relationship with those guys over there in Japan, Mr. Honda and them. He has good relationships with Top Rank for years. That was his first major deal in the United States as far as Fernando Beltran. Um, yeah, I do like the Picasso fight. Uh, you know what? Picasso maybe, maybe he can do something. I mean, I see it as an 80-20 fight, not even 80-20, a 90-10 fight, right? I give him a 10% shot of winning. Hopefully he
Generous.
just looks good. Hopefully he just looks good, right? He's got good defense. He's a big guy. Maybe he can keep him at bay. Good luck with that, right? But
For anybody.
I
For
like
anybody.
the MJ fight too, but also not even close. Even with the big payday in Riyadh, nowhere near beating Inoue. I don't see anybody beating Inoue for a super long time, David. We just got to wait for either a Nakatani or a Bam and see what happens there. I tell you what I would like, David. MJ versus Picasso or Picasso versus Nettie before Picasso even touches Inoue. Both of those fights seem a lot more fun, but it's inevitable. They all got to face this guy sometimes, but they might as well all go for it. But at some point, I'd like to see Picasso MJ, Picasso Nettie. Those fights are going to be more fun at 122, and maybe they'll all just keep taking turns at Inoue.
You know, you keep bringing Picasso up. One guy you didn't bring up is Ramon Cardenas.
Yeah.
Out of San Antonio, I would rather see Ramon Cardenas in there with a Luis Neri or MJ while we're waiting for Inoue's next bout. I think Ramon Cardenas needs to be mixed up in there somewhere.
He definitely does, man.
Just really quick about Nakatani. I'm on board for that fight. I think it's going to be huge in Japan. In the last video, I said this too. I don't think Nakatani should be fighting Inoue right now. What has he done at 118 pounds? He's won a title, but what has he done at 118 pounds right now that proves that he deserves a fight with Inoue? But the reason why I thought Nakatani and Inoue were going to make a really good fight at 122 pounds is because I thought Nakatani would at least have unified a title at 118 by now. He hasn't done that yet. And it doesn't sound like that's on the horizon either. So before Nakatani gets to Inoue, I really think he needs to either unify titles at 118 pounds, become undisputed, or beat somebody at 122 pounds. I don't think he gets to leapfrog 118 that easily and jump into fighting one of the best fighters in the world. I want to see Nakatani really earn that fight. A lot of people are calling for Nakatani Inoue right now, and I was one of the first people beating that drum. You remember that, Mark? I thought that was going to be huge. I don't think that fight's ready yet, and I don't think Nakatani has earned it yet. So that's just my piece on that. Fight me in the comments. Anyway, moving on. Let's go ahead and talk about the fights on the zone, Mark. Diego Pacheco defeats Steven So Cold Nelson by unanimous decision. That fight, many expected to end by knockout. We both got it wrong, although you were a lot closer to being right than I was because you picked Pacheco to win. I want to say I was impressed by Pacheco on Saturday. He showed me some composure. He showed poise while being in there with a strong puncher like Nelson. I know a lot of people, including you, Mark, were dismissive of Nelson, but you could see the respect that Diego showed him for the first half of that fight. But right around the 5th round, that's when Diego really started turning it on. He took over the fight and never let it go after that. In the last video, you said Diego's team were expecting a 10th round stoppage. It looked like they were going to get it. Nelson looked ready to go to me in the 10th. I thought if Diego would have turned it up just a little bit more, he could have got the stoppage. But Nelson did not go quietly as he did rally in the last couple of rounds. He even finished strong in the 12th, landing some good shots, but it was too late. Diego had the fight in the bag by that point. What is next for Diego, Mark? How did you see the fight? And is he ready for the top fighters at 168 pounds?
Diego Pacheco, man, under the tutelage of Jose Benavides Sr., a really, really experienced trainer. His son, you know, all the accolades there, and his other son. And he's got a really nice stable. Jose Benavides Sr. really knows what he's doing. He's got Steven So Cold Nelson in front of him. As expected, it was expected, David. Diego's a slow starter, man. I don't know what's wrong with this guy. He's disinterested the first 4 rounds, and he's notorious for it. But Steven So Cold Nelson, he had the right game plan. He tried to jump on him early because he knew this was going to happen. This was expected by that team. The game plan was to jump on him early while Diego's sleeping usually those rounds. I don't know why. And be aggressive. And Stone Cold was working and doing well. He was just missing a lot, David. That was his shot early. He missed on it. Diego Pacheco turned it around as usual. In the 5th round, he kicks in and he started firing, landing combinations upstairs, downstairs, using his long arms, beautiful uppercut work. And then he just turns it right off after the 10th round, David. A lot of clinching, a lot of joking around, talking to this guy in there, looking up at the clock. But yeah, he won, and it was pretty easy for him to win. But to me, it feels like this guy's just disinterested with the dude in front of him. And the boxing game, man, it's tough. I don't know personally, but I know a lot of professionals, and they say you have to fight every single fight. Like if you have the most dangerous person right in front of you, I need to see Diego against a plant, maybe like me and you said, or maybe somebody else just to, and Billy. I know that fell through. I don't know why, but I would have loved to see that. He's not going to get any better with Nelson, man. He needs better opposition, David. And I'm really worried about this guy's disinterest, man. You really should have looked at Steve Nelson like if he was Canelo. That's all I got.
I disagree with you. I don't think he took Nelson lightly. I actually think he took him very, very seriously. He did not exchange with Nelson. He moved away from Nelson. He made Nelson expend a lot of energy to try to close that distance because that's what Nelson needed to do on an opponent who's 6'4" when he's 5'10". And Nelson just simply couldn't close the distance properly, and he used a lot of energy early on doing it. I think that was part of Diego's plan. It was a tough matchup for Nelson, and I think Diego showed him the proper amount of respect. I'm with you though. I think Diego could have closed the show at the end of the fight, and he probably either used a lot of energy himself because he moved around so much early in the fight. For some reason, he decided he wasn't going to be able to knock Nelson out. He decided to coast at the end, and that's why Nelson ended up getting that 12th round. I actually had that fight 7-5. That's how I scored it. The fight wasn't actually as close as my scorecard had it. I think Pacheco kind of gave up some of those rounds where instead of Nelson taking those rounds.
He doesn't even throw punches, David. I don't understand why he just does like the. I don't know what's wrong with him those first 4 rounds.
I think he was very respectful of Nelson, and he didn't want to give Nelson the opportunity to counter. He was sticking that jab out, but it wasn't like consistent, right?
I just think it's becoming a habit. It's known that he doesn't fight in the first 4 rounds, and that's very concerning.
So you mentioned Plant, Mark. I'm not sure he beats Plant right now. I think Plant's style gives Pacheco the most trouble at this point.
Yeah.
I think Pacheco does beat Berlanga. I think he beats Mbili. I didn't like how Mbili looked against the one-armed Derevianchenko. I also think Pacheco beats Munguia. And then that might be a tougher fight, even though Munguia's recent loss happened and he got knocked out recently. I think Munguia would be able to close the gap on Pacheco better than Nelson could. But I'm not sure if Munguia is going to be the same as he was before that KO loss. I'm going with Pacheco on that one as well. You know, it's not the coming out party maybe Pacheco was hoping for, but he's definitely showed some things in there. I think he's ready. Moving on, Mark, to Andy Cruz versus Omar Salcido. Andy Cruz looked pretty good versus Omar Salcido. I just felt like Salcido didn't have much to offer Cruz. It was a step-up fight, granted, for Cruz, but Cruz had Salcido outgunned for most of the fight. I like Cruz. I like his style. He mixes in the defense and the counterpunching with some aggressiveness. He shows you those skills, but he also takes some risks in there. He stayed in the pocket a lot in this fight. He didn't totally jump out of the way to dodge punches like most defensive fighters will. He moves enough just to stay in range so he can return fire. He caught some shots in there too. He did take some punches in there versus Salcido. He took some risks. So I can get down with watching Andy Cruz show some skills and take some risks as well. Makes the fight fun to watch on that end, Mark. After the fight, I saw a little interaction with Cruz walked up to Shakur and Keyshawn. He was looking for a handshake. I don't know what Cruz was expecting. Online, he called himself Keyshawn's dad, right? Who knows? But who knows if that was actually him saying that? You know, boxers have people, especially Cruz doesn't speak English. They have other guys run their accounts for them. But, you know, regardless of that, Cruz should have known that that's the stuff that's being put out on his behalf. And Keyshawn's not going to want to shake your hands if you're calling yourself his dad, man. Like, what's going on? Despite their history in the amateurs, it doesn't sound like Cruz is on Keyshawn's radar at all, Mark. Do you think these two need to face each other in the pros? And how did you see the fight with Salcido?
Listen, Andy Cruz is everything that's been sold to us, David. He's fast. He's precise. My favorite thing about him is he's got the capability to control the rhythm of the fight from bell to bell, round to round. He throws beautiful combinations. And, you know, he had Omar Super Salcido pretty bad in a few moments there. Omar Salcido, on his behalf, he was trying, you know, coming forward, especially at the beginning, coming forward, trying to look for big punches. But Andy Cruz was just way too much. He's in and he's out really, really quick. Some of the guys from Salas compared him, saying, you know, Lomachenko on steroids. I know you don't like that comparison, but these guys are guys that have been. These guys have been in the ring with him, man. Gabriel Maestre told me that, and he's been in the ring with him. Andy Cruz is good, man. I love the way he can control the rhythm of the fight. He had a tough dude in front of him. Salcido can punch. And listen, I liked that Andy Cruz was working upstairs, downstairs, creating openings, but I didn't like that he wasn't finishing them off. I think that he was a little tentative because the last Mexican he fought, Moran, he hurt him big time in the fourth. And then in the seventh round, lo puso muy mal. He wrecked him. And if Moran had a little bit more of IQ, he could have stopped him there. But I think that made him a little bit more tentative because Omar was throwing cannons, but Andy was really good at keeping him at bay and using his jab and attacking when he needed to, but he wouldn't actually go for the kill. Then around about the 11th round, David, was it when Boozy started telling him, hey, man, he's not even going to hurt you, so don't be worried when you got him hurt. Take care of it and do it now. Don't worry. And he actually went out and he tried to do it in 12th. Omar Super Salcido clinched for all dear life for like the longest minute I've ever seen. It was the longest clinch, but he stayed on his feet. But I like that he listened to Boozy. But I give Andy Cruz a B plus. He does get hit a lot still, even though he's quick. As far as Omar Super Salcido, David, I think he just needs to take some time off. He had a real tough 2024. He's been the B side of a lot of hard fights. He's won a lot of tough fights these last few years. He's had good success, made a little bit of name for himself, but it's been a grueling 2023 and 2024 for him. I'd like to see him rest and come back later in the year, maybe in the fall, maybe just one more fight, build on 2026.
Moving on, Mark, to Tito Mercado versus Jose Pedraza. Mercado won by technical knockout in the 4th round with a devastating left-right combination that sent Pedraza to the canvas. Pedraza would get up, but he looked unsteady and the ref was forced to stop it. I like the stoppage. There was no need for Pedraza to fight in that state with a hard puncher like Mercado. He did not need to take any additional punishment at that point. Mercado improves his record to 17-0 with 16 KOs. Afterwards, he had some not very nice words for Shakur, who was sitting at ringside. Mark, did Mercado just announce himself to the 140-pound division?
You know what he did, man? Tito Mercado's been a, down low fighter for a while. A lot of people really didn't know who he was, but the boxing community definitely knew who Tito was. He's been known as a big ass puncher, and he's been known as a dude that's had a hard come up because it's so damn hard for him to find fights. He's really well respected. His power is well respected. I met him in Houston last year at one of his fights. And David, this guy's mean, dude. Like in the locker room, I had visions of Tom Poe, just meanness, bro. Like he's a mean kid when he's ready to fight, man. He's got the look, David. He's a scary vato. I think he scares everybody out there. Keyshawn, I think he scares Shakur. David, this guy came in against Jose Pedraza, a veteran, a well-known veteran, known for his technique in the ring, known for doing everything well. He couldn't keep up with this guy at all, David. He relied on his, veteran skills and his movement and his footwork to try to get away from him, but he just got obliterated, dude. Tito Mercado didn't come to win on Saturday. He came to make a statement, and he made it. He's freaking mean looking, and I mean scarier than Clubber Lang, David. That's all I gotta say. Scarier than Clubber Lang.
I think we should definitely keep this kid in our minds when we start talking about fights to make at 140, though. The win over Pedraza doesn't mean as much now as it would have a while back, but Mercado made it look way too easy. He is 23 years old. He has a 94% KO ratio. Nice boxer puncher with dynamite in both hands. Picks his shots really well. He doesn't just go and try to overwhelm his opponents. I don't know if he needs to start jumping into top 10 fights just yet, but now that he's with Matchroom, I just hope Eddie Hearn keeps him busy. He's still very young. He's only been a pro for about 3 years. There's no rush. Keep developing this guy. Give him some movers. Give him some guys that won't fold in less than 5 rounds. Build him up for a couple more years, and he's going to make for some exciting fights in the junior welterweight division.
Pick a guy you think could really compete with Tito.
I don't know, man. Like the 140 landscape is changing like a lot right now.
Well, let me ask you this. Does he beat Subriel Matias right now?
That might be too much at this stage. Right now, I don't know. Just because look, he hasn't faced somebody like a Subriel Matias. He hasn't faced somebody with some pop. And one thing that I've noticed about Tito Mercado, bro, if you back him up, if you can back him up, you can have success against him. and you can pause his assault a little bit.
That's
He
a good
doesn't,
point because we were watching that fight with Nova.
and he was getting backed up in that fight, and he
Wasp.
wasn't throwing as many punches, and he wasn't able to counter because he was jumping out of the way. He was making big leaps back, taking himself out of range to return fire. And what is Matias gonna do to him? He's gonna back him up. He's gonna come forward, and with that power, you gotta respect it. But this is not the same. Like, this Subriel Matias is not gonna be the Subriel Matias that we saw with J Panda. So there's that aspect to take into consideration. I don't know. I don't think he beats Subriel right now. I think it's a good fight. I think he can beat a Subriel, but I don't know if he's ready for Subriel just yet. What do you think?
I think he hits harder than Subriel. But I think Subriel has a good chin, though. At this point, it's a 50-50 fight. With Hitchens,
I agree with that.
It's a 60-40 fight. Hitchens' way.
In favor of
Richardson Hitchens, yes. Right now, yeah. 2 years from now, I don't know. I don't think 2 years from now. If he's gonna beat him, it's gotta be right now.
Right away, huh? Yeah, no, yeah, you know what?
He's got long arms, and out of the way, he could catch him from far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you on that too. I think Hitchens could give him a tough fight. That's a tough style to crack, man.
A year from now, 2 years from now, oh man, he's gonna be a problem.
It's because it's a styles thing, right? Hitchens, pure boxer. He's a pure boxer. Tito Mercado, boxer puncher.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Mercado has a tougher time with Hitchens versus Subriel Matias. Because Matias is an aggressive fighter, right? He's a pressure fighter. But what beats a pressure fighter? The boxer puncher, which is what Tito Mercado is. So as far as style matchups go, Hitchens would be a tougher fight for Tito Mercado. I think you're onto something there, bud. But if I were Matchroom, I would just wait and develop this kid for a couple more years.
Yeah,
develop him more. There's no rush, man. Let's see what 140 the landscape starts to look like at 140, and keep developing him. Because one thing this guy's gonna need is more rounds. He's gonna need more rounds. Right now, he's averaging, I don't know, between 3 and 5 rounds per fight. Yeah, that's not enough. That's not enough. He's gonna need some more rounds than that. Well, Mark, it was a good weekend of fights. We've got another weekend of fights coming up this week. The hits just don't stop. We'll be sending another video out to go over the Benavidez versus Morel card. Be looking out for that, guys. We're going to try to touch on that, give you our opinions on that. And let us know what you thought of the fights this weekend. Hit us up on the comments. As you know, don't forget to hit that like button and keep subscribing. We want to know what you guys think. So we'll catch you on the next one.